Hello everyone and welcome to Blog Runner Everything and welcome back to the channel and unfortunately welcome to Barcelona's first loss of the season because guys it seems like PSG has now just become Barcelona's boogeyman when it comes to the Champions League. I mean, go ahead and just look at the recent record Barcelona has against PSG playing at home. This is now I think maybe 3 or 4 matches in a row that Barcelona have lost to PSG at home in a row. Should be 3 if I'm not mistaken. Which, that's really not a good record to be having. And this is despite the fact that, in and amongst Barcelona's ranks, they had PSG's actual boogeyman, Marcus Rashford, who for some reason or another seems to just channel Neymar and just, he believes he is Neymar whenever he faces Paris Saint-Germain. And for the most part, when he was on the pitch, Barcelona looked like they were possessing a huge threat. But unfortunately, he came off and he was subbed off for Robert Lewandowski, and there was a drop off in intensity. Barca just couldn't press PSG's defense the same way that they had before. But also, just on top of that, I felt that really this result for me lies more at the feet of Hansi Flick, especially, it going from being a 1-1 draw to being a 2-1 loss. The reason I say that is because up until Pedri and Marcus Rashford came off, Barcelona still looked like they were giving PSG something to worry about. PSG were not keeping Barcelona pinned into their own half. It was very much, a 50-50 kind of encounter. Both teams were having a few moments in the limelight, then, it goes the other way. And nobody really had monopoly over that midfield area, to be honest. You can just look at, the stats for the likes of Vitinha, the likes of, Fabian Ruiz. It's not what they typically were, Of course, maybe that has to do with the fact that João Neves was not around this time around. If he was, probably that could have been different. But at the end of the day, like I said, there was just not so much control exerted by either team over that midfield. I mean, first half, Barcelona did definitely start well, and for the most of the first half, I thought Barcelona looked like the better team. And, even when they did concede, you were thinking, well, if they keep on doing some of what they were doing in the first half, they should be able to find another goal. And really, they should have been able to find another goal. Maybe the only other person who I will lay this result at their feet next to Hansi Flick is Dani Olmo. And you're just wondering, like, dude, what's happening with you right now? I think Dani Olmo needs to go and just have a soul-searching moment right now, Look at himself, look at what's going on, ask himself, is this really where I want to be going, who I want to become? Because honestly speaking, from him today, he might as well have not been there. Barcelona might as well have been playing with 10 in some of the moments, because this brother was invisible for huge chunks of that match. And the one time when he wasn't invisible is when he had arguably the clearest chance of the match, that wasn't scored. I mean, of course, Barcola would beg to differ, but, arguably the clearest chance. And he couldn't find the back of the net. And onwards from there, though, when he was being taken off, I was thinking that Flick would try to be a bit more enterprising with some of his subs. Like, I understand bringing on Casado for, Dani Olmo, and I guess that would mean Pedri moving into the attacking area. But I think a substitution that I was waiting to happen was to bring on somebody a bit like Tony Fernandez, or to take off Dani Olmo for, Robert Lewandowski. That way you still keep Marcus Rashford on the pitch. You still keep Ferran Torres on the pitch. Because let's be honest, Ferran and Marcus Rashford did give PSG a lot to worry about. Let's not forget, there were a lot of last-ditch challenges by PSG in that first half, okay? They were having some moments where they were, needing to hold on. But I think at the end of the day, what won it for them is admittedly a stronger bench, because I think if Hansi Flick had a stronger bench, you probably wouldn't have seen Daniel Olmo even stay as long as he did. He would have probably been hooked at halftime. But regardless, like I said, the stronger bench for PSG came through, as well as cleverer substitutions by Luis Enrique, bringing on Gonzalo Ramos in particular. Once he came on, I remember thinking to myself, surely Barcelona have to put on Ronald Araujo to deal with that, because we all know when it comes to dealing with the big men, the defender who does it best at Barcelona is Araujo, but he didn't come on. Instead, we saw Christensen come on, and I'm not going to, like I said, throw any shade or anything at Christensen. He probably did the best that he could, given what kind of a match it was, how intense it was, and how quickly you need to adjust. He just couldn't adjust in time, and of course, the assists, we need to remember, came from Hakimi, a player who had been kept quiet for the most part with Marcus Rashford still on the pitch. So there's that to consider as well. And, overall, of course, if we had Joan Garcia, do we lose this game? I don't think so. He probably saves that Gonzalo Ramos shot. He's just that kind of a goalkeeper. But at the end of the day, I think PSG definitely deserved the 3 points. No doubt about it. They executed the game plan better. Barcelona, poor execution when it came to the substitutions. I'm sorry, I'm really going to be hard on Flick with this one, especially for a manager at his level. I expect something better than that. Bernal, in my opinion, should not be coming on in this kind of a game with this kind of intensity. It's really not fair to him. Put somebody on who's been playing at least, like I said, put on a Tony Fernandez. Do something a bit different, which is going to still keep, PSG on the back foot. When you bring on Bernal, PSG don't have anything to worry about defensively with Marc Bernal because, he's not an attacking midfielder. And the same as well with Casado. He's not an attacking midfielder. The same as well with Frankie de Jong. He's not an attacking midfielder. So once you take those guys off, then you're basically unlocking PSG's midfield for them. Because now it means Vitinha, who was playing as the 6, who was holding, can now start pushing up further. And of course, that's what led to that flurry of chances we saw, Kangin Lee hitting the post. And eventually, of course, Gonzalo Ramos with the winner. Anywho, you guys let me know what you thought. Personally, disappointed with how the second half went with the substitutions that were made and the performance levels as well. You could see there was a bit of a drop-off. Can't really put my finger on it as to what it was, but, at the end of the day, I'm just sitting here and I'm wondering, how did we end up taking both Rashford and Pedri off when those are two of our most probably important players from this match tonight in how it played out. Anyhow, let me know your thoughts in the comments. But aside from that, I thank you all for tuning in. To have a great day and Forza Barca.